Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reading Corner. I'm so happy that you came to visit me today. I've got some fun stories today. One is about a bird called Gertrude McFuzz who has just one feather on her tail, but she wants some more. So we'll have to find out what happens. And then we have a story about Slinky Malinki, who by day is a very good little cat, but by night he gets up to quite a bit of mischief. So we'll have to check that out. And then finally, we have a story called Too Many Carrots. And it's about a rabbit who loves carrots so much that he has so many carrots, he doesn't have room for anything else. And we'll find out what happens in his story when we get to it. But first, let's start and find out what happens with our bird, Gertrude McFuzz. There once was a girl bird named Gertrude McFuzz, and she had the smallest plain tail ever was. One droopy droop feather, that's all that she had. And oh, that one feather made Gertrude so sad. For there was another young bird that she knew, a fancy young birdie named Lynley. And instead of one feather behind, she had two. Poor Gertrude, whenever she happened to spy Miss Lynley flying by in the sky, she got very jealous. She frowned and she pouted. Then one day she got awfully cross and she shouted, "This just isn't fair. I have one, she has two. I must have a tail, just like Lynley." So she flew to her uncle, a doctor named Dake, whose office was high in a tree by the lake. And she cried, "Uncle Doctor, oh, please, do you know of some kind of pill that will make my tail grow?" "Tut, tut," said the doctor, "such talk. How absurd. Your tail is just right for your kind of a bird." Then Gertrude had tantrums. She raised such a din that finally her uncle, the doctor, gave in. And he told her just where she could find such a pill, on a pillberry vine on the top of the hill. "Oh, thank you," chirped Gertrude McFuzz, and she flew right straight to the hill where the pillberry grew. Yes, there was the vine, and as soon as she saw it, she plucked off a berry. She started to gnaw it. It tasted just awful, almost made her sick, but she wanted that tail, so she swallowed it quick. Then she felt something happen. She felt a small twitch, as if she'd been tapped down behind by a switch. And Gertrude looked round, and she cheered. It was true. Two feathers, exactly like Lynley. Then she had an idea. "Now I know what I'll do. I'll grow a tail better than Lynley. These pills that grow feathers are working just fine." So she nibbled another one off of the vine. She felt a new twitch, and then Gertrude yelled, "Whee! Miss Lola has only just two. I have three. When Lynley sees this beautiful stuff, she'll fall right down flat on her face, sure enough. I'll show her who's pretty. I certainly will. Why, I'll make my tail even prettier still." And she snatched at those berries that grew on that vine. She gobbled down 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And she didn't stop eating young Gertrude McFuzz till she'd eaten 3 dozen. That's all that there was. Then the feathers popped out with a zang, with a zing. They blossomed like flowers that bloom in the spring, all fit for a queen. What a sight to behold. They sparkled like diamonds and gumdrops and gold, like silk, like spaghetti, like satin, like lace. They burst out like rockets all over the place. They waved in the air and they swished in the breeze, and some were as long as the branches of trees. And still they kept growing. They popped and they popped until round about sundown, when finally they stopped. And now, giggled Gertrude, the next thing to do is to fly straight home and to show Lola Lulu. And when Lola sees these, why, her face will get red. She'll let out a scream and she'll fall right down dead. Then she spread out her wings to take off from the ground, but with all of those feathers, she weighed 90 pounds. She yanked and she pulled and she let out a squawk, but that bird couldn't fly, couldn't run, couldn't walk. And all through that night, she was stuck on that hill. And Gertrude McFuzz might be stuck up there still if her good Uncle Dake hadn't heard the girl yelp. He rushed to her rescue and brought along help. To lift Gertrude up almost broke all their beaks, and to fly her back home, it took almost 2 weeks. And then it took almost another week more to pull out those feathers. My, Gertrude was sore. And finally, when all of the pulling was done, Gertrude, behind her again, had just one. That one little feather she had as a starter. But now that's enough, because now she is smarter. The end. Sometimes we do look at other people and we think, gee, they have something that I really want. But I think we all need to learn to be happy with ourselves first. And if we want to improve ourselves, maybe get a haircut, maybe get a new top, maybe, paint our nails, whatever. We need to do it for ourselves, not to make other people jealous. But I'm sure all of you are a lot smarter than Gertrude McFuzz. I'm sure of it. And I'm sure a lot of you are all smarter than Slinky Malinki, who gets up to all kinds of mischief. So let's find out what happens in his story. Slinky Malinki was blacker than black, a stalking and lurking adventurous cat. He had bright yellow eyes and a warbling wail and a kink at the end of his very long tail. He was cheeky and cheerful, friendly and fun. He'd chase after leaves and he'd roll in the sun. But at night, he was wicked and fiendish and sly. Through moonlight and shadow, he'd prowl and he'd pry. He crept along fences, he leapt over walls, he poked into corners and sneaked into halls. What was he up to? At night, to be brief, Slinky Malinki turned into a thief. All over town from basket and bowl, he pilfered and pillaged, he snitched and he stole. Slippers and sausages, biscuits, balloons, brushes and bandages, pencils and spoons. He pulled them, he dragged them, he heaved them until he'd carried them home to his house on the hill. One rascally night, between midnight and 4, Slinky Malinki stole more than before. Some pegs and a teddy bear dressed up in lace, a gardening glove from McCafferty's place, a tatty old sneaker, a smelly old sock, and Jennifer Turkington's pottery smock. A squishy banana, some glue and a pen, a cushion from Oliver Tulliver's den, a clock and some bottles, a pair of blue jeans, a half-knitted jersey, a packet of beans. He pulled them, he dragged them, he heaved them until he'd carried them home to his house on the hill. Then Slinky Malinki, rapscallion cat, piled them up high in a heap on the mat. The glue toppled over and gummed up the pegs. The jersey unravelled and tangled his legs. He tripped on the bottles and slipped on the sock. He tipped over sideways and set off the clock. Crash went the bottles. Beep, beep went the clock. Row, 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 row went the dogs on the block. And on went the lights. Bang went the door. And out came the family. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, they all said. What a criminal cat! Tomorrow we'll have to take everything back. With a tangled up middle and glue on his face, Slinky Malinki was deep in disgrace. Never again did he answer the call when moon shadows danced over garden and wall. When whispers of wickedness stirred in his head, he adjusted his whiskers and stayed home instead. The end. What a naughty cat. Goodness me. I'm glad he learned his lesson. And now we're going to read a book about too many carrots, and we'll see if Rabbit learns a lesson from collecting all his carrots. Let's find out, shall we? Rabbit loved carrots. He collected them wherever he went. Rabbit was proud of his collection and burrowed it away in his cozy hole. But Rabbit had a problem, a big problem. He couldn't sleep. His cozy hole was too crowded to live in. I need a place to sleep, Rabbit told Tortoise. You could share my house, Tortoise offered. It looks cozy and snug, Rabbit said. Maybe it's a little too snug for two, suggested Tortoise. Not at all, said Rabbit. Uh-oh. Oh, dear. Out. Ah! Crash. Oh, dear. Well, perhaps we can stay in Bird's nest, said Rabbit. My nest is quite small, Rabbit, said Bird. I'm sure we will all fit, replied Rabbit. Rabbit hauled all his carrots up the tree. Whoa, groaned Tortoise and Bird as the branch wobbled and swayed and snapped. Crash. I'm so sorry, Bird. Now 3 of us don't have a place to sleep, said Rabbit. You could sleep in my house, offered Squirrel. Oh, thank you, Squirrel. How kind of you, said Rabbit. Don't think any more carrots will fit, Rabbit, said Squirrel. Just a few more, Rabbit replied. Uh-oh, whimpered Tortoise, Bird and Squirrel. Creak, crack, crash. Now 4 of us don't have anywhere to sleep, grumbled Squirrel. You can sleep at my house, called Beaver. It has plenty of space. Great, I can bring even more carrots, Rabbit said with a smile. But with all your carrots, we can't fit inside, said Beaver, a bit bewildered. Just then, the rain started. Tortoise shivered, Bird whimpered, and Squirrel squeaked. And Beaver heard a terrible rumble as his house collapsed. Oh no, my house, yelled Beaver. Oh no, my carrots, cried Rabbit. Ah! Crash. The friends groaned as they swept up onto the riverbank. Rabbit felt terrible. His friends were cold, tired and homeless, and it was all his fault. Even worse, Rabbit still had all of his carrots and his house. And that's when he realized there was only one thing to do. Share everything with his friends. After all, carrots weren't for collecting, they were for sharing. And sharing made everything better. The end. Well, I'm glad that all of our characters today, from Rabbit and Slinky Malinki and Gertrude McFuzz, all learned the lessons that they needed to learn. Although they could have done things a little bit easier, couldn't they? Oh well, it still makes for interesting books to read. and I love to share my books with you. Thank you so much for visiting me today at Reading Corner. I love when you come to visit, and I hope that you enjoyed these stories. And next time, I'll see you with even more stories to share again. And until then, have a great day. Bye for now.